Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 We're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7, entitled Further Inquiries by Vidura. We're on text 27. It's November 8th, 2024. So in this edition, it's page 324. So it's 3727. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamutirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yutamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So we'll start with the Sanskrit words responsively. Tiryan, Manusa,
Devanam
Sarisripa,
Vaishrisha
Atatrinam,
Tatrinam
Vada, Na, Sarga, Samyuham,
Samyuham
Garbha,
Garbha
Sveda,
Veda
Dvijod Bidham,
Yotpidham
Tiryam Manusha Devanam,
Tiryanmanushadevanam
Sarisripa Patatrinam,
Sarishripa Patatrinam
Vadana Sarga Samvyuham,
Vadana Sarga Samvyuham
Garbhasveda Dvijod Bidham,
Garbhasveda Vijotpidham
Tiryan Manusha Devanam,
Tiryanmanushadevanam
Sarisripa Patatrinam,
Sarishripa Patatrinam
Vadana Sarga Samvyuham,
Vadana Sarga Samvyuham
Garbhasveda Dvijod Bidham.
Garbhasveda Vijotpidham.
Rosa, would you like to lead the chanting of the verse?
Dhira, Manusa, Devanam,
Tiryan Manusha Devanam,
Sarisva, Patrin, Nanam,
Sarisripa Patatrinam,
Vedana Sarga, Samyuham,
Vedana Sarga Samvyuham,
Arba, Sveda, Dijodbindam.
Garbhasveda Dvijod Bidham. One line.
Tiryanmanusadevanam
Tiryan Manusha Devanam,
Sarishripa Patatrinam
Sarisripa Patatrinam,
Vadana Sarga Samyuham
Vedana Sarga Samvyuham,
Garbhasveda Dvijotpidam.
Garbhasveda Dvijod Bidham. Would anyone else like to lead the chanting of the verse? Okay, we'll study the word meanings responsively. Tiryak, subhuman. Manusha, human beings. Devanam, of the superhuman beings or demigods. Sarisripa, reptiles. Patatrinam, of the birds. Vada,
Vada,
kindly describe,
kindly describe,
Na,
Na,
unto me,
unto me,
Sarga,
Sarga,
generation,
generation,
Samvyuham,
Samvyuham,
specific divisions,
specific divisions,
Garba,
Garba,
embryonic,
Embryo,
Sveda,
Theta,
perspiration,
perspiration,
Dvija,
Dvija,
twice born,
twice born,
Udbidam,
and Vidam,
of the planets, etc.
the planet, etc.
So this is Vidura asking questions of Maitreya, and the responses really comprise the substance of the next 50, 60 chapters. So it's quite intense. And so the translation is also, please describe the living beings under different classifications: subhumans, humans, those born of the embryo, those born of perspiration, those who are twice born, birds, and the plants and vegetables. Kindly describe their generations and subdivisions also. There's no purport to that verse. I'm going to read verse 28. Gunavatarer Vishvasya Sargastitya Yayashrayam Srijata Srinivasasya Dyachakshvodara Vikramam. Translation, please also describe the incarnations of the material modes of nature, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshvar, and please describe the incarnation of the personality of Godhead and his magnanimous activities. Purport by His Divine Grace A.E.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Although Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshvar, the three incarnations of the material modes of nature, are the principal deities for the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the cosmic manifestation, they are not the final authority. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is the ultimate goal, the cause of all causes. He is the Ashraya, or the final rest of everything. Okay. Om Angana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamupa Kadamayam Darati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Badan Sagnalalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatayubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, Chapter 7, Text 27 and 28. Tiryan Manusha Devanam Sari Sri Papatatrinam Padana Sarga Samvyuham Garbhasveda Dvijodbidam. Also, please describe the living beings under different classifications: subhumans, humans, those born of the embryo, those born of perspiration, those who are twice born, birds, and the plants and vegetables. Kindly describe their generations and subdivisions also. Gunavatarer Vishvasya Sargastitya Yayashrayam Srijata Shrini Vasasya Vyachakshvodara Viskramam. Please also describe the incarnations of the material modes of nature, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshvar, and please describe the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his magnanimous activities. Hare Krishna. Okay, so so we can see all varieties of science are here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Here we have the taxonomy of species and the science of creation. So according to the Vedas, there are 8,400,000 species. I think in modern biology, they've discovered, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 million. So, they're discovering more regularly. So Vedas are very precise, and they describe 8,400,000. And that includes 400,000 different species of human beings. Even in modern anthropology, biology, they'll describe, like each species has subspecies. So amongst humans, they'll describe there's different subspecies like that. And so creation is so many species, and so Prabhupada will often stress that the Vedas describe evolution, not the theory of evolution, but evolution in a factual way. Prabhupada indicates that Darwin actually plagiarized from the Padma Purana. Prabhupada did the Padma Purana, which describes evolution of species. The important difference, though, is it's not that one species evolves into another, but rather the spiritual living entity, that atomic unit of sentience that we are. We move from one apartment, just like 8,400,000 species. We can understand, like, there's 8,400,000 types of apartments or compartments. Okay, and we move according to our consciousness. We move from one apartment to another. Okay, so just like someone might move from a tiny 300 square foot efficiency to a 2-bedroom apartment, and then maybe they'll get a home, and then maybe they'll get a 4-bedroom that costs $2 million in an affluent place or something like that. But it's not that the efficiency apartment morphed and evolved, and the efficiency apartment became the home in the suburbs. No, the living entity transferred. Okay. So we use the apartment analogy. We could use a vehicle analogy. You can put that on a cushion if you'd like, or home, either way. Same with vehicles. All right. Just like, because sometimes it's just the fact that there's so many varieties of species that is proof for evolution. Well, Darwinian evolution, because there is evolution. There's evolution of consciousness. That's our focus. Just like, let's say someone noticed, say, an alien from the galaxy Andromeda were to come and notice that there's so many varieties of motor vehicles. Okay, yeah, there's the there's the two-door compact, and there's a four-door sedan, and there's the military tank, and there's the moped, and there's the jet plane. There's so many varieties of motor vehicles. So they could conclude, oh, obviously, the obviously the motorbike morphed, and the motorbike became the two-door compact, and then the two-door compact. No, that would be false reasoning, and that would be an inaccurate conclusion. Okay, so no, so the fact there are so many varieties of species. Okay, just like with the motor vehicles, doesn't indicate one vehicle evolved into the other. Rather, there's an intelligent designer who designed so many types of motor vehicles, different forms for different functions, different forms for different functions. Okay, so designed the compact for one, designed the luxury car for another function, designed the Jeep for another function, different form. Intelligence designed different forms for different functions. So similarly with the varieties of species and some categories of species, the taxonomy is described here, So different forms for different functions. And as Prabhupada often emphasizes, the special function, there's a text earlier in the Srimad Bhagavatam. I know, Rosa, you're about to begin the Bhagavad Gita course. And so this Bhagavatam it's like the follow-up to Bhagavad Gita. It's a 30-volume set that Prabhupada gave us. Both the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, they're given to us by Srila Vyasadeva. And just like the Bhagavad Gita, it's basically Vyasadeva revealing and narrating that sublime conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. The Bhagavatam is Vyasadeva narrating amazing, sublime conversations between different great spiritually realized personalities like here Vidura and Maitreya. So the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, it's the realization. These are the realizations. In one sense, to the extent that we're sharing, to whatever extent we're sharing authentic realizations aligned with Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, we are expanding the Bhagavatam. We're continuing the parampara, the disciplic succession. So Bhagavad Gita, it's the realizations of Arjuna, the devotee of Krishna, and of Krishna himself, the supreme personality of Godhead. And so the Bhagavatam are the realizations of Bhagavan, Krishna, and Bhagavan's pure devotees. That's what the Bhagavatam is. And Vyasadeva is revealing it to us. Now, so we can say Srila Vyasadeva, we can say that he wrote these books, but it's not writing in an ordinary sense. It's not writing and publishing. That's why I use the term Vyasadeva revealed Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna. Vyasadeva is the literary incarnation of Krishna, and Vyasadeva and Krishna reveal Bhagavad Gita. So, because these are eternal literatures. They're eternal literatures, and sometimes they're dormant. So it's described, just like we described some examples about variety indicates intelligent design, not that one vehicle. So similarly, let's if we study the anthropological evidence, we'll find before about 5,000 years ago, there's no evidence of writing. Okay, so one interpretation is, well, people back then were too stupid to write. So the Vedas take the same evidence. So the Vedas describe that back then, 5,000 years and before, practically everyone was what's called a Shrutidar. Shrutidar means hear something once and you remember it for the rest of your life. Now, even though I regard everyone in this association here as intelligent, everyone here intelligent, my sense is there might be a few things we've forgotten along the way. We might not completely remember everything we've heard from the time we're a child. We might have forgotten a few things. But so because people were so smart, they didn't need these crude devices like these clunky machines or pens and not that there wasn't writing, but it wasn't so necessary. Krishna wrote a letter to Rukmini. There is writing. There was not like they didn't know how to write, but for the most part, they didn't need that system for communication. You hear something from a spiritual authority, got it. Got it for the rest of my life. So Vyasadeva, being a literary incarnation of Krishna himself, he could see that as this age goes on, not everyone's going to be a Shrutidar. Shrutidars are going to be pretty rare. So he said, I better write this down. So he reveals this eternal knowledge. It's described in Bhagavad Gita, a key verse in Bhagavad Gita. There's maybe 200 verses that Prabhupada quotes a lot from Bhagavad Gita, and we could narrow it down. Like what are like the 20? What are the 5 most? But definitely one of the most. Vedes. This is 15, chapter 15, text 15. Vedes chasavera ham eva vedo. Vedes chasavera ham eva vedyo. Vedanta krit vedavit eva chaham. Krishna says, he says that I compiled the Vedas. I'm the goal of the Vedas. And the object is, so Krishna says he wrote the Vedas. So how did Krishna, because if we read Krishna's pastimes, which is in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, also known as Krishna book, we don't hear Krishna writing the Vedas, but Krishna says, Krishna compiled and revealed the Vedas through his literary incarnation, Srila Vyasadeva. And so the Bhagavad Gita says Krishna's, the goal of all the Vedas, all the yoga, all the study is Krishna. That's the goal. Bhakti, devotional service to Krishna. Yes. Svai pumsam parodharmo yato bhaktirat hokshaje ayatukya pratiyata yayatma suprasidati. The supreme dharma for all occupations, for all humans. Dharma means like our responsibilities, or more essentially, Dharma indicates our essential nature. The Prabhupada sometimes describes Dharma as that which cannot be separated from a thing. So the Dharma of fire is to be hot, the Dharma of sugar is to be sweet, the Dharma of the spirit soul is to serve. So we're going to serve. We're going to serve. Our choice is how to direct our service. And to direct it towards Krishna, that's called bhakti. And that's the goal of all the Vedas, called the goal of all the philosophical processes, religious processes. And bhakti is specifically for Krishna. And so many species, we just talked about the taxonomy of 8,400,000 species as described in these verses, Canto 3, Chapter 7, text 27 and 28. And so, yeah, this was, I think it was last week, Anandini led class on the previous verses from this chapter. And Anandini described how these are very reassuring verses, that there's a benevolent universe, just like we use the vehicle analogy, so many thousands of types of motor vehicles. There's intelligence designing different forms for different functions. So similarly, Krishna, through his agents, designed different, like 8,400,000 types of compartments, all to support us compassionately to move towards our happiness. And so some basic principles of the principle of transmigration, the Bhagavad Gita, 8.6. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam kyajatyante kalevram tam tam edeti konteya sadatad bhava bhavita. Whatever state of consciousness one is absorbed in when leaving the body, that state we obtain. So crude examples, but just to get the idea, let's say if someone is just absorbed in trying to enjoy eating. So in one sense, the human body is not the best body for that. We get tummy aches very easily and all sorts of stuff. But then let's say that's where our consciousness is. So maybe we enter into the womb as an embryo, into the womb of Mrs. Piggy, of a pig. Okay. And then the pig has a body where we can eat slop and eat like that. If someone is all about having muscle mass and things like that. Okay, again, the human body is not the best body for that. So maybe we get the body of we get the apartment of a gorilla or a rhinoceros. They got muscle. They're good at muscle mass. Never seen one at a gym. Okay, but no, it's an important point, right? So yeah. So according to our consciousness, that's going to determine our next body, and basically, the human species, we either burn off negative karma, or we're burning off our karma, good or bad. And the other species is naturally burning off the karma created. In the human species, we create karma. And if we create relatively low level karma, we go to the animal species. Relatively high level karma, we go to the demigod species. As far as spirit souls in the animal and plant bodies, they automatically progress. Spirit soul and tiger body, let's say they're just, their whole life, they're just viciously attacking deer and zebras and ripping them apart. And they don't get bad karma for that. They're just doing the dharma of a tiger. And then the soul will go to the next body till it gets human form again. Now, if we're just viciously killing and harming and torturing animals, well, then we're getting bad karma for that. Karma, just to demystify karma, we're gonna it's like let's say if we harm a body to satisfy our tongue and belly, and we're killing animals. Okay, then means either in the future in this life or in a future compartment, in a future apartment, then someone's going to give pain to our body so that they can enjoy. That's it. We did this. So, and it's very minute. It's described in the Brahma Samhita. Yastrinja gopam atavendra mahosva karma bandhan rupam palabhajana matanoti karmani nirdhati kintu cha bhakti bhajam govinda madi pusham tamaham bhajami. Yes, earlier in the program we heard some verses from the Brahma Samhita. There are 27 verses consecutively that all end Govinda Madi Pusham Tamaham Bhajami. Prabhupada has letters to some of his followers. He says, yeah, you learn the Brahma Samhita verses, and everyone will find it very, very appealing, very captivating, very attractive. Govinda Madi Pusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the original person. We can see the English word person comes from the Sanskrit Purusha. So that verse we just cited says that all living entities, They're just subject, they're in the machine of karma, yantra rudani mayaya, except for the bhakti, except for the devotee, except for the devotee. And so Krishna, through his agents, has designed 8,400,000 species. And the idea is that all the living entities and all the different species, the innumerable living entities, not just on this planet or this universe, innumerable universes, like more universes than there are mustard seeds in a bag of, many tons of mustard seeds. You know how many mustard seeds? More universes than that. And that's just that's just a fraction. Ekam Shena Stito Jagat. That's just a fraction of the creation. Spiritual creation is much more vast than the material creation. And so it's all designed to bring us to bhakti, to bring us to our joy of surrendering to serve Krishna with love and devotion. That's what all the material creation, all the material bodies are, all the material atoms are meant for, to bring us to that. So that's the compassionate, benevolent universe from the compassionate, benevolent creator. And our nature is to experience joy. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Pratyakshava gamam dharmyam shushu kam kartumaviyam. Krishna says, this process is the perfection of religion. So if we think religion can have these kind of dry, uninspiring connotations. I've often said I've never been interested in religion. I'm still not, in the conventional, ordinary sense. Like I belong to this. I'm a this. I'm a Hindu. I'm a Christian. I'm a Jew. It's just kind of like, this is kind of dull. This is boring, or just some rituals. But actually, if we look, Ganashyam Prabhu described this in one of his classes not too long ago here, that if we get to the Latin roots of religion, like we see the word leg, like a leg is something that moves something, that connects. The Latin roots of religion has the same meaning as yoga, to connect, to connect, ultimately the self connecting with its original joy, the self connecting with God in a spirit of devotion. So if we talk about the essence, then okay, then this is a real transcendental process. So for at least since my mid-teens, I am interested in a process we can experience, and that's what so attracted me after years of taking prasad. My heart was pure enough to realize that I'm actually attracted to this Krishna consciousness, because it's not just like, are you joining something? What do you belong to? But it's actually a process that transforms the heart. It transforms the heart. And again, I'll mention your quote to me the other day, Rosa. Rosa was saying that you've been to many mindfulness classes, and then there in the Safatov Foundational Advanced Course, you experienced more powerful mindfulness than in any of the mindfulness classes. And we could notice, like at the beginning of the advanced course, it was like that. But by like people are fidgeting, they say, "Oh, I need to get up," and like we could see that. But then by day 4, by day 5, by day 6, we might be going for 2.5, 3 hours, and just who's ever sharing their stretch, who's ever there for contracts. No one's thinking about, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. Just mindfulness. And that's the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam was spoken in 7 days. And Maharaj Parikshit, complete mindfulness. No eating, no drinking. Prabhupada indicate that in what we read this morning before japa. Not like he was tortured, just like so blissful in absorption in this transcendental philosophy. And so Krishna says, Shushukam Kartumavyam, this process is joyfully performed. It brings the positive joy of the soul, meaning it's not just a negative relative relief from misery. Like, oh, I'm not suffering as much as yesterday. Or, yeah, my life's terrible. But look at my neighbor. he's doing worse than me. He just really got slammed on that one. Well, okay, I guess I'm doing, of course. I'll sometimes quote Srila Prabhupada, a lecture I heard many years ago. And so he was talking about Prahlad Maharaj, the great devotee saint. He became like the emperor of the universe practically, but he's especially known for his pastimes as a 5-year-old child um, with Lord Nrsingadev. And Prahlad Maharaj talks about being Paraduka Duki Naivod Vijay Paradirayaya Vaitaranyas. Prahlad Maharaj is like, I don't want to be liberated. I don't care about my joy. I want everyone else to be happy and realize their nature as blissful spirit souls in service to Krishna. So I want to stay here. So, and of course, in such a devoted attitude, then the bliss of the soul is natural. So Prahlad Maharaj talks about being paraduka duki, meaning experience. It's like that's profound empathy, experiencing someone else's pain as my own, like that. So then Prabhupada said paraduka duki, and Prabhupada said in the lecture. And then that's spiritual life, paraduka duki, real compassion. That's why Srila Prabhupada, for himself, he was blissful in Gokula Vrindavan, chanting Hare Krishna there in Vrindavan. He didn't need, without feeling our pain of these millions of people who are in ignorance and suffering, alienated from ourselves, and acting so foolishly and causing such pain and misery to ourselves and others. So Prabhupada came, and that's why we're here in places like Europe and Florida, because Prabhupada had that compassion. Prabhupada said, and material life, material consciousness is parasukha means when someone else is suffering, we are happy. And when someone else is doing very well, we are very pained and sad. And then Prabhupada said, of course, we don't say that. But he's just in a very simple way getting at to the psychology. Of course, we say, oh, I feel so bad for you. But so real compassion or empathy, that comes from being connected with the soul. The essence of empathy is super soul connection, is super soul connection. And so for the most part, I mean, I'm maybe painting with kind of a broad brush here, but for the most part, paths other than bhakti, it's about relief of material misery. And that's nice, but it's not the positive joy and bliss of the soul. That comes from acting in bhakti, singing, dancing. We're all going to eating in bhakti. We're all going to work. We're going to do something for a living. We're going to communicate. We're going to relate. We're going to engage in professions. We're going to engage in occupations, and cultivating, mastering the art and science of doing all that, dovetailing it in bhakti. Then that's the positive bliss of the soul. It's the positive bliss of the soul. Prabhupada gives the example of, like, there could be, say, an animal, and the animal's in the desert, hot desert. And the animals, there's no water. The animal sees a mirage, but it thinks it's a real pond 50 yards away. But it goes, but there's still, oh no, oh, it's 50 yards that way, and the animal runs until it just dies in the desert. So that's us in material life. The happiness is just there. If I could just have that person honor me, if I could just have that bank account, if I could just have that position, if I could just have that electronic device, oh, well, that didn't do it, but I'm sure if I just take birth in this species over there, maybe, because there's no water in the desert. Well, we can say there's no water, but that's the key. So for the most part, the other paths, it's about realizing there's no water in the desert. But then it's kind of like, so there's no water. So to realize that it's an illusion to think I'm going to be fulfilled in material life is to realize there's no water in this desert. Nice. But here's the thing, there is water. There is water that satisfies the self. And that's in the positively engaging our senses. It's a very world embracing process. Positively engaging our mind, our senses, our propensities to serve, to relate, to communicate, to exchange, to contribute, to dance, to sing, positively engaging our senses in the process of bhakti, and then we experience the bliss of the soul. We experience the bliss of the soul. And then we don't need to separately endeavor for mindfulness, because then naturally we're focused on the transcendental forms that satisfy the soul, the transcendental vibrations like Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, the transcendental fragrances and tastes and flavors, transcendental qualities of relationship with Krishna in the center that satisfy the soul, then the mind's not disturbed. The material world will continue to present disturbances. We can count on that. It's a sure thing. And to not be disturbed by the disturbances, that means to be absorbed in the process of bhakti. And so bhakti is for Krishna. I'll just close. So text 28, the second verse we read today from chapter 7, canto 3, talks about Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwar. Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwar. And so Ete chamsa kala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Bhakyam Midyanti Yuge Yuge. Krishna is the source of all incarnations. So that's the essence. There's just like we're reading the science of the taxonomy of the Vedas, 8,400,000 species. And so it can get complex. Similarly, it's quite a science of the different avatars and incarnations. Avatar, that's a word in the past decade or two has become somewhat known in English. It's like the past 60 years, yoga has become known, guru, different terms from Sanskrit. So avatar means one who descends from up to down, from the pure transcendental realm to this realm. Srila Prabhupada or Jesus, they are Shakti Vesha avatars. They weren't forced to come here by the material desires, but they chose to come here to engage in mission for God. So the science of avatar is actually it gets complex, and I'm definitely, there's definitely aspects of it that continue to be mysterious for me. Even though I've read Prabhupada's books for many decades. But like there's 7 categories of avatar: Manvantar, Yuga avatar, Leela avatar, Gun avatar. And then there's subcategories, and there's Vaibhava, Prakash. Okay. But here the Gun avatars are described. It means that Brahma is a guna, the mode of nature. Brahma is an incarnation of the mode of passion, Vishnu of the mode of goodness, Shiva is mode of ignorance. Not that Shiva is ignorant, but he's in charge of those in the mode of ignorance, like that. And so, so Krishna says, Aham Adir Hi Devanam Maharshinam Chasarvasha. Krishna says he's not just some avatar or some sage or demigod, or like that. Krishna is the source of all the avatars. This is Bhagavad Gita, this is Bhagavatam. So we serve Krishna, we're pleasing Brahma, Shiva, all the demigods, Yajant, Yavidi, Purvakam, and we try to direct our propensity for service somewhere else. It's misdirected, and we'll be missing the actual bliss of the soul. So, the name of our institute, Sattva Tov. And so we endeavor to create and cultivate sattvic environments and habits in the seminars and in our lives, whether it's in communication, sattvic habits around eating, sleeping, and then Sattva is the material mode of nature that's closest to the soul awakened to its original bliss. Sattva itself, though, is not transcendence. And so bhakti, that's transcendence. Another term for bhakti is Shuddha Sattva, pure Sattva. Okay. So, um, so a sattvic consciousness is the best platform from which to choose bhakti. At the same time, let's say if we find ourselves like, I'm not in sattvic, I'm in the ignorance and passion, I'm just like foolishly doing this and impulsively from wherever we're at, bhakti, Shuddha Sattva, it's not dependent on sattva. From wherever we're at, we can choose bhakti, Hare Krishna. Okay, just like, okay, the most sattvic time of day are these early morning hours, pre-dawn hours. Rose has been here since 5 a.m. And we can feel the Shakti, we can feel the sattvic potency. So this is the best time of day, most powerful time for our spiritual practice. And we can feel that. We can experience the truth of that. This Prajakshavagamam Dharmyam, directly experience, and not just, I believe this, I believe that. We get up early, chant the names of God, study this transcendental philosophy. We feel the bliss, we feel the joy, okay? And then that sets the foundation of consciousness for the rest of our day. But let's say it's a day where I didn't use the early morning hours for stuff. I was just kind of sleeping because I stayed up late and I did television, this, that, and I got up, it was already 10 a.m. and but now it's like in the middle of the afternoon and I need to do that. Okay, so like I didn't cultivate sattva, whatever, here I am, noon, 3 p.m. Let me chant my rounds of Hare Krishna. Okay, well, I should have chanted them at 6 a.m. Okay, whatever. It's transcendental. Let me read Bhagavatam. Let me, with devotion, offer whatever the food is. Let me offer it to Krishna before just eating. Let me offer it to Krishna with love, whatever time of day, even if it's a Rajasic or Tamasic time of day. So bhakti is transcendental. At the same time, we don't want to use that as a spiritual bypassed excuse to neglect our sattvic habits. Okay, I'll read the text again. Text 27. Also, please describe the living beings under different classifications: subhumans, humans, those born of the embryo, those born of perspiration, those who are twice born, birds, and the plants and vegetables. Kindly describe their generations and subdivisions also. Please also describe the incarnations of the material modes of nature, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshvar, and please describe the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his magnanimous activities. Hare Krishna, thanks for giving your power of hearing to Srimad Bhagavatam. Any questions or comments? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anandini.
Thank you for the class. Yeah, I was very enlightened what you shared about evolution.
Yeah.
Like that there is a natural evolution that happens. Well, that's what I understood. There's a natural evolution. Like animals, like they will just climb the ladder slowly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like according to consciousness.
Yes.
And that it's not about species like changing.
Right.
And yet, we often discuss that with our kids also. Yet still there is also like some species disappear from the planet.
Okay.
Others appear.
Right.
So what is that?
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for highlighting that part of the class. Right. So yes. So the animals are burning off the bad karma they produced in the human form until they get back to a human form, and then Krishna and Vyasadeva and Prabhupada are giving them, us, so many opportunities to really choose our bliss, to engage in bhakti, but there's no force. So it's all meant as a compassionate, benevolent universe. And evolution, yeah, just like, because the idea is, well, but scientific, rational people actually believe in Darwinian type evolution, but it's because like science is based on empirical experiment, means you can actually, okay, so like, have you or you, has anyone ever seen one species transform into another, either in nature or in a laboratory? No one's ever experienced that. No one's ever seen that. But if you're scientific and rational, of course you believe it. Okay, I'm just saying, like, it wouldn't seem to be, you can believe it, but that would seem to be a very unscientific belief because no one's ever seen it. Okay. So as far as one species disappear, well, a few things come to me around that, Anandini. One is, okay, so you read in some book that species disappear, based on some fossils, based on chewing fossils this way and that way. My understanding is, like, as far as the amount of fossil record that they've examined, that the archaeologists have access to, would be like 0.01% of the whole, like, so based on that, we conclude what existed 47 million years ago, and it kind of, so it's based on now, and then we understand from the Vedas and even from modern science, modern mathematics, that even within this planet, within this planetary system, there are dimensions we don't have access to. So when there's 8,400,000 species, they don't disappear. They don't disappear. There's 8,400,000 species in the material universe. And the material universe, there's so many planets, even just in this, there's so many planetary systems, even on Earth, or Jambudvipa, Bharatvarsh, the Bhumandala planetary system, there's so many aspects of it we don't have access to. We don't have access to. Even, like, let's say in modern mathematics, for now the idea is everything started from a singularity. The Big Bang started from a singularity. So to even conceive of the singularity, they need to postulate the mathematics of there's 14, interesting, 14, the same number of planetary systems and time relativity dimensions in the Vedas. The modern cosmologists say there's 14 dimensions. We have access only to 4 of them: length, width, height, and time. So there's so much outside of our purview of our tiny senses that how can we say with any authority, this species doesn't exist in the universe anymore? How can we say that?
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't thinking of fossils. I was thinking of elephants, for example, or panda bears, or that are like disappearing now, or the Aborigines. I was reading a lot about the native people in Australia like many, I know, 25 years ago, and I read one of the leaders, they expressed, like, as a tribe we have decided to leave planet Earth. And I was, I didn't make any sense to me then, but what you're saying now is that, like, that's certain species of human being, they're not disappearing, like they're not, I don't know, like completely erased.
Yeah.
They appear in some other place.
Yeah, they might appear in some other place. And I get what you're saying, because they're species that are becoming extinct within our time because of modern industrialization. You weren't so much speaking about like dinosaurs and things like that. Yeah, so again, from our vision, species seem to be diminishing, and oh yeah, such and such subspecies of the eagle no longer exists. But that's according to very limited, very limited and illusory perceptions. I remember, I think it was a class and discussion at your house a few years ago. Maybe we gave the, let's say there's an ant crawling on the wall here in the home of David Wolf in Alachua, Florida. So there's an ant on the wall. I don't see an ant, but let's just imagine. Okay, now what awareness does that ant have that is just crawling on a little piece of one wall in a room with four walls? What awareness does the ant have that even this whole room is just one room amongst many rooms in the house, and that this house is just one house amongst hundreds of houses in the neighborhood, and there's one small pebble called Earth, and like that, and the whole galaxy is just, and this whole universe is just like, what consciousness does the ant have? So we say, well, we're not ants, we're sophisticated, progressive people with a vast scientific knowledge, and that's it. In one sense, spiritual life, the process of bhakti, begins by getting like, I'm like that ant, and if I with my limited mind and senses try to understand, oh, this species has disappeared. So yeah, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. It's very soothing too. All my life, it's been like a cause of pain to see like certain flowers disappear and species disappear. Like really, it was like emotionally really challenging for me. And yeah, just see like little Annette is being like relieved that they're not disappearing. They're just, they're going to some other sphere. So
this is warming and it's reassuring and heartening for your heart, for you, and for the 8-year-old version of Annette.
Yeah. I have another question, but maybe someone else wants to also share something.
Bhakti Oasis.
I just felt inspired by what you were speaking about, Anandini and dear Govinda, because I like this concept of remaining skeptical of what we're being told. I like the idea of really evaluating things with critical thinking, just because the authorities, the scientists, the community of intelligentsia are out there, touting something. It doesn't mean that I have to take it into my heart as truth, even though when we were at the park maybe 2 weeks ago, and Saraswati runs up to me. She's almost 5. She has a lot of questions. She's like, "Mama, what is gravity?" And I'm just like, without a beat, I just look at her and I'm like, well, gravity is an idea that scientists came up with, that things with bigger amounts of mass attract things with smaller amounts of mass. So we don't fly off the planet because presumably the planet has a lot more mass than we do. But I want you to know that that's just a theory. So don't necessarily take that to heart. Remain skeptical and come up with your own conclusion about why, we don't fall off the face of the planet. And all the other, she was very accepting. She was like, okay, got it. Ran off, went to play. All the other moms started freaking out, like quietly freaking out. Like, what are you talking about? First of all, because we're in a pretty rural part of Florida. And I think it's like somehow I'm breaking convention, like on an international scale, even potentially by saying, well, what they're saying is that it's not proven. What they're saying is that this is an idea that they had and it's not the truth, but it's what the best idea that they have right now. And so even with things becoming extinct or things evolving, like, looking at the fossil records, there is no example that I'm aware of any dinosaur transforming into any other dinosaur. They're like, oh, this, you can't see it right now because there's like, you need so much time to be able to see one thing turn into another thing. I'm like, okay, well, good. Then show me all the fossils of things turning into other things. Like, you have them, right? You must have that's probably what dinosaurs were doing like all the time, right? You'd have like just stacks and stacks of bones where they're like growing little thumbs, or like, there's like little horns that they didn't have. And then there's like a bunch of them that have like little horns that are progressively getting better or more horns than they had before. Nope, none of that. They don't have any of it. Not that I'm aware of. They're like, no, all of those were destroyed by time. I'm like, really? I'm like, guys, like that's your big conclusion here? Like the stuff that you cut out of the ground was just like the stable forms of life? I'm like, no, that doesn't really make any meaningful sense to me. So I really like the perspective of we don't know, like with our limited human senses, like we can't even see very well. We really can't. Like when you look at the full spectrum of UV, you know, right, like so many, you know, all the different wavelengths of light that are going around us, we can't even see them. We can't even perceive them at all. So the fact that things are appearing to disappear doesn't concern me that much. I feel like that's a perfectly adequate explanation that we don't even know really what's in the ocean. We don't really even know what exists around us. We're coming up like, oh, we hear things all the time like, oh, we thought this, you know, subspecies of monkey was, you know, gone from the planet. And then they're like, guess what? There's this whole group of them that has existed behind this cave and this place that no one went for a while. And I'm like, really? Like they're all there now? Like, what are you talking about? Disappeared. So this for me is very enlivening because I like the idea that Srila Prabhupada is not talking about things abstractly. He's not coming up with like some, you know, supposition that, you know, sounds plausible. Like he's talking about things and it might sound totally incredulous. You know, it might sound crazy. And I've had conversations with people like really educated people, groups of orthodontists that are trying to convince me about evolution. And I'm like, I'm not buying what you're selling, buddy. They're like, no, you don't get it. Like on God's timeline, he can do things like you know, it's like God's evolutionary timeline. It fits because his way of experiencing time is different than ours. And I'm like, no, man, it's all the same author. Like I can see how erosion occurs over time because when I squirt water on sand, it moves. So like I can see that the Grand Canyon might have been made over time because there's this idea of like the time affects things. What I don't see is anybody transforming in any way into any other thing, unless it's like the plan to do that. Like dragonflies transform dramatically. They're in the water, then they're in the sky. So it's like there's a way of looking at things that are much more universal. And I appreciate that Prabhupada comes from that place of it doesn't ever change. It's not, it's like it's fixed in the way that the universal principles are, and we can experience that like very directly. So I don't know if Prabhupada ever talks about gravity or what the heck's going on there, but
He does. He
Okay.
does talk about gravity. He definitely does, very, very concretely.
Okay, we'll have to look into that then, because I know that when I was in like a quantum mechanics course, like very introductory, they were talking about the strong force holding things together, and that actually doesn't work according to the ideas of gravity at all. That it completely like blows it apart. And I was like, Krishna, is that Krishna? Is he the strong force? All right, so I'm gonna have to look
Yes.
into that.
Yeah, well, first, there's so much in your sharing, Bhakti and Danielle. Thanks for that. I'm appreciating how you're inculcating and cultivating a deep appreciation in yourself and in your daughter for true critical thinking, such that she doesn't need to simply follow the herd of independent thinkers. And everyone who's a free independent thinker believes this. You wouldn't dare oppose that based on logic and rationality. So what's the meaning of the word Krishna? There's many meanings, but the meaning we hear the most for Krishna is all attractive. So Prabhupada says Krishna is gravity. Gravity, the essence of gravity. Of course, you know, there's the Newtonian conception. Einstein had a conception of curve of space. Anyhow, Prabhupada talks about this. The essence of the force of gravity is it's the attractive potency of a proton. It's the attractive potency of a planet or a planetary system or a galaxy. So it's the attractive potency. So the actual word is let's call it the expansion of Krishna that is controlling what scientists sort of call gravity is Sankarshan. Sankarshan is there towards the bottom of the universe. Sankarshan, we can see the root of Sankarshan, KRS, Krishna, the attractive force. So Krishna is gravity, and that's not just in some, Krishna is everything. It's true, Krishna is everything. But actually Krishna means all attractive, and Prabhupada says that's the essence of what the scientists are trying to get at with gravity. Now, okay, so the idea since the time of Darwin there in the 1800s is that the fossil record will provide clear evidence for evolution, okay? All right, so 20, 30, 100 years, 150 years, even you got the top anthropologists, evolutionists, and they're just going to say the fossil record, it's just not there, and it's not going to be there. Let's give it up. The fossil record, as you in, does not support one species transforming into another. So somewhere around the 60s, maybe early 70s, they invented a new theory called punctuated equilibrium. Punctuated equilibrium means that because that it's not, the idea is that maybe there was like a lightning bolt or a meteor that really sped things up, and that's how the species transformed, and that's why it's not in the fossil record. So the proof, and this is in the books, you can read it in the books, the proof of the punctuated equilibrium addendum to the theory of evolution, the proof is that there's no evidence. You see, I'm glad you're nodding your head and you're accepting what I'm saying. See, the proof, see, because it actually happened so quick because of a meteor or something, then there wouldn't be evidence in the fossil record. So the fact that we see no evidence in the fossil record for transformation of species, that's the proof that our theory is true, that there's no, this is science, get it? That's actually what they're saying.
You know, when I hear you talk about this, it sounds so incredulous. And then I know, just because I hang out with a lot of scientists and we read a lot of things about, especially about tooth science, it's like the thing that George is most involved in. They say things like every tooth in the mouth can be influenced by other teeth erupting. We see it all the time when kids lose their baby teeth and the new teeth come in, they push other teeth out of the way. But scientific community, like it's in the books, like you're saying, really believe, they teach that when the last teeth in the mouth, the wisdom teeth, come in, they do not impact any of the other teeth with the forces that come in. And that's what they teach. And even though everything that people are seeing, and they're seeing it all the time, right, that doesn't make any sense, they still tell people, like, you can get full sets of braces in your mouth, and when your wisdom teeth come in, it's not going to impact anything. All your teeth will stay exactly where they're supposed to be. And even though it sounds crazy, and even though it is obviously crazy because they're not seeing that in real life, they still teach it and they still believe it. They still really believe it. And so when you tell me that they came up with this, like, what was it, punctuated eventuality or something? What was it?
Punctuated equilibrium.
Punctuated equilibrium. That it sounds bananas, but somehow when the right people say these things, everyone else just kind of, and I honestly kind of admire that level of faith. It's actually kind of an impressive level of faith. Like if they could come up with any other beneficial thing to apply that for or towards, you know, it would really benefit them. It would like, they would like grow in self-realization and leaps and bounds if they could just hook on to any authorized wisdom tradition, because that level of faith is hard to find. So I kind of feel like they just missed it. Like somehow, you know, they just are misapplying because they want this. I get them as like truly seeking. They really want, but they're like not willing. I don't know. Is it like an ego thing for scientists? I don't know. Like why not just bow down to not being the center and really connecting to an ancient wisdom tradition? Because with that level of faith, I mean, most practitioners of ancient wisdom traditions don't even have that level of faith. You know, they're like, I don't know, but scientists don't feel that way.
Yeah, if I could have that strength of faith in Prabhupada's words, well, okay. Upton Sinclair wrote, it is difficult for someone to understand something if their salary depends on not understanding it.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Daniel. Other comments and questions? Anandini, you had something?
Yes, I appreciated listening to you and Danielle. And recently, my daughter came home from school and she said, "Mom, my biology teacher, she really sees herself as a scientist.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, she presents to us that life, just started because by chance the conditions were good, and then the first life became." So she calls herself a scientist who doesn't believe in miracles, and actually she's presenting this miracle to us.
It seems like it happened.
Just out of, because by chance the conditions were right and life appeared. Yeah, so that's like a comment that came to me hearing your discussion. My question was about okay, there's something in the chat. What is in the chat? I would love to listen to you have a discussion with an evolutionary biologist, Dhira. Yes, me too.
Okay, I've had a few of those over the decades, including even back in my years in Israel. I would be doing sometimes Sankirtan, 1985, 1986, and I would go into the university laboratories and I had discussions with evolutionary biologists. But if anyone wants to arrange such a conversation, let's do it. Let's record it.
Okay, my question is about religion. You spoke about religion, and I'm curious to hear your understanding of how come are we so attracted, like the attraction to belong to a group is so strong. Like I can see that in myself too. Like it would be so easy if I felt like I'm a Hare Krishna or I'm a Christian or I'm a, where does this come from?
It comes from Krishna.
Could you be a little more vague, please?
Could I be more vague? Sure. I'll try to be more concrete. Okay, so John Madhyasya Yataha, everything that exists in the effect, everything that exists in the effect must be there in the source. So just like we all have some attractive potency, because Krishna, our source, is all attractive. So Krishna, what we hear about Krishna, it's very social. Krishna is very social, and Krishna is engaging in relationships. Krishna is engaging in relationships, and Krishna's got community. Krishna's got family. Krishna's got friendship circle. So when I say it comes from Krishna, I'm not just trying to be vague. You can say that about everything. It comes from Krishna, but just like Krishna means all of it, Krishna is actually the gravitational force in a scientific way. So Krishna is social, and even if we don't see him with people, he's with his flute, he's with the trees, he's with the cows, he's with the river Yamuna. Krishna is social, so the soul we are has that propensity, and just like all propensities, we can direct it materially. And so, like, if I direct it materially, means like I'm attached. I'll feel belonging, and I'll be adored in this family and in this group and in this religious group, and then I'll have distinction. Maybe I'll have a position, and I'll do some service, and people will appreciate me. Okay, then it's material, even if it's in the name of a religious group like that. And even if in order to let's call it, in order to enter into Krishna's social life, then we need to cultivate detachment from material social life, including the material social life of material religion. But the ultimate propensity, the original propensity, just like we all seek knowledge, because Krishna is the original potency. Krishna is always expanding in knowledge. And so we could seek knowledge in the stock market, we can seek knowledge in the sports page. If we seek knowledge in Bhagavatam, okay, then we're blissful. So the nature of the soul is to be social and to look for groups to belong to. And to the extent that we direct that in a materially attached way, then we're blocking ourselves from entering into social relationship with Krishna and his friends.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anandini. Bhaktin Rosa.
Well, good morning. My question is about the compartments that you mentioned.
Yes.
So, you spoke of, for example, like the rhinoceros or, the pig. My question while you were speaking became, well, what is the purpose of the human compartment? And what came to my mind is we have the capacity for consciousness to act outside of material nature, and it's
Yeah.
whether or not we rise to the occasion.
Yeah, that's our choice. Yeah, that's our opportunity and choice.
But if you wanted to expand on this compartment in our service, maybe.
Thanks very much for that. Thank you, Rosa. I was going to make a quick comment on Eze and Valerie's chat about evolutionary biologists. I'll mention in 2018, Jeremy Comell, who's a professor of chemistry at Yale University. So that's up there. It's an Ivy League. He's a professor of chemistry. At that time, he was completing his PhD. Jeremy and I, we had hours and hours of discussion about evolution. Very fascinating, and very, very enriching. And he really knows his stuff. And so it was very moving conversations between Jeremy. He came with me to the Czech Republic, and he staffed the foundational and advanced there that Ladini and I co-facilitated with the support of Yogeshwar Prabhu. And then in Czech, and then also when we returned to the United States, we went at some points, we were talking in the car, and Ladini needed to ask us to, she politely asked us to be quiet because she was getting, it was like, she didn't want exposure to that vibration. But Jeremy and I, we were enjoying it. So I have had conversations with top level scientists, and Jeremy's conversation stands out as probably the most recent one where we really got into it. And we're still friends, and certainly there were points where we each got enriched from each other, and points where we agreed to disagree. So, yeah, the first aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Atato means now that amongst the many species, now that we have a human form, now's the special opportunity to inquire about Brahman, about spirit. So the other species, every species has a special gift in God's creation. The special opportunity in the human form, just as you were indicating, Rosa, is we can ask questions about who am I? What happens when the body dies? What am I pretending not to know? There's like all these sets of questions. The essential activities of all the other species are eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's material life. And we can say, but I do my eating, sleeping, mating, and defending in a fancy house, and the dog does it on the street. I'm very progressive. No, same stuff. I eat in a fancy restaurant. The pig eats in the slum. It's the same thing. Okay, but so we have the capacity to ask questions and to seek for that which is non-material, that which is we can understand who we are as not the body. We can ask questions like, what is the purpose of life apart from taking care of the eating, sleeping, mating, and defending? And to the extent we're not doing this, then the Vedic term is dvi pada pashu. Then we're two-legged animals. Then it might be said, maybe 99.9% of the human population is like two-legged animals. We have the opportunity, of course, to take care responsibly of our eating, sleeping, mating, defending, and to engage as much as possible towards 100% in self-realization. In the passage we read this morning before japa, Prabhupada says, we chant Hare Krishna, we engage in Krishna consciousness, then naturally we realize who we are as spirit soul, as the observer, as that spiritual person who's peering through these eyes and speaking through this mouth, not the body. So that's the special opportunity. It's like, that's a tragedy. That's a catastrophe if we waste the human form of life. And the truly realized souls like Srila Prabhupada, he's like urging us, like, your life is valuable. Don't waste it. Use it for that. Use it for that happiness that'll never be destroyed by time. That happiness that is not just about satisfying the eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Don't get attached to that. To move towards move towards minimizing material activities, or dovetailing them. So like if we transform our eating process where we commit to consume only prasadam, then the eating process itself becomes spiritual. So to realize who we are as that blissful spirit soul intellectually, and this process is directly experienced. That's the special opportunity of the human form of life. I'll close with a text from Lord Rishabhadev speaking to his 100 sons, headed by Bharat Maharaj. Tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shuddhadyasma brahma sakyam tranantam nayam deho deha bhajam riloke kastan kamam harti vidbhujamye. Bharat Maharaj says, don't settle for the quality of so-called happiness that's available to the stool-eating species. He says, human life is meant for ever-increasing unlimited bliss that comes from realizing who we are, spirit souls, and engaging in our natural blissful activity of bhakti, devotional service. And that requires austerity. That requires not just austerity, like I bang my head against the wall, or I'll fast for 2 weeks, just to feel, but austerity that has divine purpose. Just like related to what Anandini shared. Yeah, we're naturally going to be attracted to social life, and I want to belong to a club, and maybe it's religion, in a material sense. So we need to do some austerity to not be attached to material social life, and then to awaken to the real blissful relationships of the soul in bhakti with Krishna. And then, so like, here we are, I don't know, we got about 8 of us here, 8, maybe, I don't know who's on internet, but maybe 8 or 9 of us here. So we have our relationship, we have our group, we have our social interaction, and it's not just about material, I'm popular in this group, but like Krishna's in the center, and that's what human life is for. That's the special opportunity. That's what the Vedas say again and again. Thank you, Rosa. Thank you all for your association. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh.